In the beginning, it's like a science fiction movie. I always likened it to it. You know, it's like, is this real? Can this really be happening?
Chemical sensitivity is a very real, physical disease.
I could possibly liken it to being allergic to a cat and having a cat rubbed in your face every time you go somewhere.
Patients get dismissed time and again, that they're simply told it's in their head.
When you first start asking the questions, what is in this bottle that is making me sick? It opens up this incredible Pandora's box.
It's very similar to tobacco smoke. This fragrance problem is really one of what I call secondhand scent.
The feeling is as if the eyeballs have suddenly got a bit too big for their sockets. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how it feels.
Best-selling author Kate Grenville experienced years of mysterious symptoms which she always put down to stress.
It did take me a very long time to put two and two together, and I can remember the day it happened. Somebody came back from overseas with a bottle of, duty-free something or other. Put it on and immediately I got this ripper of a headache. And it was the moment at which I thought, okay, there's a cause and effect thing happening here. My life is now completely shaped by this notion of fragrance. When I meet friends, I no longer embrace them. Public transport is a nightmare. I can no longer shop. I can't even go to the hairdresser and get a haircut. In a million tiny ways, I can no longer live a normal life. And I'm somebody with actually quite a mild version of this.
This problem of adverse health effects from exposure to common chemical products like fragrance products is an epidemic.
Professor Anne Steinemann has been researching chemical sensitivity for 25 years. Her latest research found that 1 in 3 Australians report health problems from fragranced products. For some, the symptoms can be severe. An estimated 1 million Australians have a condition known as multiple chemical sensitivities, or MCS.
For someone with MCS, an exposure to an air freshener can cause them to have a seizure and lose consciousness.
And yet the grotesque thing is that they're called air fresheners, when in fact they are kind of air toxifiers.
At Airwick, we know the power of that first whiff of your favourite scent.
If I'm exposed to air fresheners, I get headaches that feel like my brain is stinging.
As soon as a chemical hits her, you can see her face just start to go red straight away.
I am housebound on the orders of my doctor because the only way to avoid getting sick is to avoid these chemicals, which is to stay home. And that's very, very lonely and frustrating. A friend of mine with chemical sensitivities took his own life due to isolation and the frustration involved in trying to create a safe living space.
Michelina and Dan are building this house to be a safe haven from fragrances and other chemicals.
People will come through this door. They will then change into safe clothes so that they can enter our house without being a risk to me. You go, Rookie.
On the rare occasions that Michelina does leave the house, it's with this, an oxygen tank.
Sorry, I have a medical condition and I need something that has no fragrance or perfume in it. It's a moisturiser, yeah.
So Nutra.
I can't go in because they sell fragrances. Like even here, my eyes are stinging and I'm wearing a mask and oxygen.
It's not what we understand as a normal life.
MCS can be extremely debilitating.
Dr. Christabel Yeo is a GP who sees dozens of patients with MCS. But most doctors don't recognise it, and attempts to have MCS officially classified as a disease in Australia have been rejected by medical authorities.
Patients are told they just have to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist because of their strange symptoms that don't match up, a medical diagnosis don't match up to one organ system.
In 2010, a federal government report recommended standardised criteria be developed to diagnose MCS, but in the years since, it appears that little has changed. In a statement to the feed, a spokesperson for the Federal Department of Health said,
"The symptoms of MCS are heterogeneous and non-specific, and there are no validated diagnostic tests for the condition, and so the Department of Health does not collect data on its prevalence."
Nobody expects a miracle cure, but we would like to be believed and understood.
There's plenty in the literature now to show that these chemicals are really adversely affecting our bodies, from our immune system to our mitochondria to our nervous system.
When you first start asking the questions, what is in this bottle that is making me sick, it opens up this incredible Pandora's box. That one word fragrance could cover anything up to a couple of hundred different chemicals.
There's no law anywhere in the world that requires a fragrance to disclose any or all of its chemicals. But for the most part, they all contain some sort of petrochemicals.
Johnson's Baby Cologne is now in 3 familiar fragrances: Heaven, Powder Mist and Morning Dew. To be safe.
I've analyzed 42 fragrance baby products in Australia, and half of them were claimed to be green, organic or natural.
Neda Nematali is a PhD student working with Professor Steinemann.
Only 5% of all the chemicals emitted from the baby products were disclosed on any product's label or website. And interestingly, there were no significant difference between regular and natural products.
I found hazardous air pollutants such as formaldehyde coming out of these everyday fragrance products. If these chemicals like formaldehyde or acetaldehyde are coming out of a smokestack or a tailpipe, they'd be regulated. But if they're coming out of an air freshener, they're not.
The fragrance industry is self-regulating. Talk about putting the wolf in charge of the sheep. I was absolutely shocked when I realised that the very people who make fragrance are well aware that it can have bad health effects. When you look on the website of the International Fragrance Association, they actually have a list of substances which they are using in fragrances, which they know either create allergies, give people headaches like me, neurological problems, or very commonly respiratory problems, coughing and sneezing.
The feed contacted the International Fragrance Association for comment, but did not receive a response, and the Australian industry peak body, Accord, declined to provide an interview or statement for this story.
The sources of the problems, these products, are major industries.
Bring your home to life.
In 2016, the global fragrance market was worth more than $50 billion.
The power of the fragrance industry is overwhelming. All those terrible ads directed at particularly young men saying you won't get a girl unless you spray your underarms with this stuff. Frankly, give me BO any day rather than a headache.
Ultimately, it's government that has to push the chemical industry that it needs to be in line with long-term health and safety, and it's not.
In the absence of tighter regulation of these products, some are calling for workplaces and public spaces to go fragrance-free.
Just like cigarette smoke, I really see that increasingly there's an adoption of fragrance-free policies just like smoke-free policies.
There have been a few test cases in Australia where workers have taken their employers to court saying, I have the right to work in an office that doesn't make me sick.
You want to recover, you want to find a way out of this way of living because it can be hell sometimes. If that doesn't happen, I'd like to find a way to accept the limitations of my life and find joy anyway.
People with multiple chemical sensitivities can be thought of as canaries in a coal mine. I see them as a warning sign for the whole population. We're human beings, we're all chemically sensitive to some extent.
The rest of you may not be immediately affected by this, but the fact is, there's methane in this mine. Let's get out.